Good day, folks. This is a recording about interest groups, and we'll do some theory work around the notion of choice as it relates to interest groups. And we'll let this recording stand as place of one of our class periods that we are missing out on. Okay, so you'll remember with me, please, that we started off the class and we continue to say this, that politics is about the manipulation of power, right? Politics is about the study of power. Power is the ability to manipulate choice, and the choices that matter are those that allocate scarce resources. So our goal today is to spend some time on the notions of choice in the context of interest groups. Hopefully this recording is working. All right, let's go here. Okay, so the first thing we'll talk about is public choice theory. Public choice theory holds as the predicate supposition that interest group activity is essentially a series of transactions. Public choice theory says that these transactions have as a guiding principle costs and benefits, advantages or disadvantages, or even in its most crude or blunt form, winners and losers. Public choice theory holds that politicians are only humans and they often face incentives that draw them to make decisions that can produce inefficient outcomes. That is point number one. These inefficient outcomes are the negative external costs of public policy. External costs. Negative externalities is the phrase we'll use. Public choice theory accepts that there are costs associated by the parties to the transaction, but importantly, it adds that there are costs being felt by those who are not a party to the transaction itself. So let's talk about party A, or party number one, the first party, right? Party A, the coal company. Let's talk about Alliance Coal, which operates out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Party A is directly responsible for a certain amount of air pollution. Excuse me, certain amount of air pollution. The employees associated with this coal company, they form a political action committee, a PAC, and this political action committee contributes $15,400 to the campaign of, and then Party B, or the second person, or the second person. All right, so Party B is what we're calling it. So Party A is the coal company, Alliance Coal. Party B is the Kentucky representative, Andy Barr. Okay, Andy Barr. All right, so Andy Barr is going to receive $15,400 from Alliance Coal. All right. Okay, so what is the cost? The cost to Alliance Coal is $15,400. The benefit to Alliance Coal is that Barr votes on regulations favorable to Alliance Coal making money. Next, the cost to Party B. What is the cost? Barr has to remember to vote on laws that are favorable to Alliance Coal. And then the benefit is that Barr receives campaign contributions, $15,400 in the 2020 election cycle. Now, as it relates to public choice theory, the public choice theorist says, wait a minute, we can see the cost benefit equation, and thus we can speak to the motivations of Alliance Coal and Andy Barr. But, and this is a Sir Mix-a-Lot big old but what about the third party cost? What about the cost that is borne by people who are not a part of the transaction, but are still affected by the transaction? Not Party A, Alliance Coal, not Party B, Andy Barr, but Party C, someone who's not even a part of the things that Alliance Coal has going on with Representative Barr. Okay, so the public choice theorist says that we also have to account for the social costs of political transactions, the social cost. This means that there is an external negative cost of the transaction, a negative externality. In the example of this transaction between Andy Barr and Alliance Coal, perhaps the negative externality is here, right, is air pollution in the Appalachia region. For the public choice theorists, the existence of negative external costs. This is evidence of policy inefficiencies. A policy inefficiency is where there is a cost borne by the development of a policy that is paid for by the people who do not benefit from that policy. Okay, so here's our next point. If this is a system-wide feature of American politics, how does the system continue to work? How does American politics run so well if there are persistent negative outcomes of policy transactions that are felt by people who pay the cost but do not receive the benefits of the policies? This leads us to point number 2. The negative external cost that is produced by the inefficient policy is shared by all citizens, even as the benefits flow. Only to a few people the cost is dispersed amongst a wide swath of citizens. These citizens likely do not know, for example, that their tax and consumer dollars are flowing by way of campaign contributions that facilitate the policies, the development rather, of policies that ultimately harm them. The fact that a group of people don't know something that is eminently knowable means that the people are apathetic. If you don't know something that's widely knowable, that means that you're apathetic. The American political system works really well, even as policy inefficiencies, which feature costs that are borne by citizens who do not benefit from the policy. This is an ever-present feature of the system. This means that there is a reason or a function to this apathy. This system might work so well. The system might work so well because it depends on the citizens to be apathetic to the cost. And that, okay, right, let me say that one more time. This means that there's a reason for the system to work so well because it depends on the citizens to be apathetic to the cost that they bear and also be apathetic to the benefits that they do not receive. All right, that came out better. And then this means, and this is our final point, that public choice theory holds that there is the functional necessity of rational apathy. That means that the American political system might work so well, not in spite of, but because the cost of the citizen is bearing in a state of apathy. They're not knowing about the cost that they bear to produce policies that benefit only a few people. Now, let's move on to rational choice theory. All right, rational choice theory. This is a related concept that again uses an economic analysis to explain political activity. Rational choice theory holds that it is not rational for people to work for things that they can get for free. Think about the number of interest groups that combine to make automobile driving safe. Now, think about all the car travel that you have done on American roads in your life. Third, think about the number of interest groups that you belong to make driving safe. I hope I do not presume too much, but you likely do not belong to any interest group that works to make driving safe. But you do enjoy relatively safe driving conditions on American roads. So the fact that you benefit from the work of a group without ever contributing to the work of that group, this means that it is somewhat rational for you to never join that group. So the question is why would you ever join a group and work for something if you can get the benefits of that group for free without working for it? So rational choice theory leads to two related concepts. One is the notion of collective good. Collective good. These would be the positive outcomes that are shared by the citizenry at large, even if individual citizens do not contribute to their development or their maintenance. Second, and this will be the one that's on the test, this second is the free rider problem. Please recall that we earlier mentioned, I think it was the last time that we had class, earlier mentioned that the key resource that an interest group uses to be successful is its membership. The free rider problem says that people will benefit from the work of an interest group without actually joining that interest group. If membership is the key resource, then the interest group, by its success, is producing for itself a problem. People will not join that successful interest group because they are enjoying the fruits without the labor. Therefore, they are robbing that interest group of the key resource that it needs to produce success. So the irony here, implicit in rational choice theory, is that the successful interest group produces that which will ultimately defeat it. Lastly, let's approach a thought. Well, you can read that too, but let's go here. All right. Lastly, let's approach a thought furthered by the 1992 writings of a guy named Jonathan Rauch. He wrote this book called Demosclerosis, and it says something, I think, fun for us to acknowledge. Demosclerosis. The goal, of demosclerosis is to acknowledge that there's a difference between group interest and the general interest. All right, a difference between group interest and the general interest. Remember, the theme of your textbook for the class is to say that interest group activity is a net positive for American society. All right. Also, please remember with me that earlier in the semester we covered pluralism and the attendant supposition that pluralism's allowance for interest group competition allows varied groups to be represented in political policy making. Well, demosclerosis challenges this notion. Demosclerosis builds on public choice theory, which concludes that interest group competition produces policy inefficiencies. So if you have a wide range, let's say tens of thousands of interest groups, and they all produce policy inefficiencies, then your system has a large problem on its hands. Why are there so many interest groups allowed to freely operate in the American political system? In one word, we call it, in a one-word answer, we call it freedom. It is freedom that allows people to join whatever group they wish to join. Remember with me, please, the last clause of the First Amendment, where it says that the people have a right to peaceably assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Therefore, people have the freedom under the Constitution to join whatever group they wish. Demosclerosis holds that interest groups demand more benefits, and these benefits produce more groups. If policy inefficiencies are a result of interest group activity, then the more groups you have, the more benefits you have going to the few. And this could produce a problem for the nature of democracy. This could serve to choke off the democratic system that produces interest groups. And in turn, this would undermine public confidence in politics and ultimately could serve to erode political stability. So, in short, demosclerosis holds that it is the freedom that allows people to join groups that is ultimately challenged by those groups and their inefficient activities. And this could serve to choke off democracy. So where arteriosclerosis is a hardening of the arteries that stops the blood flowing through the system, demosclerosis is a hardening of the arteries of democracy that could starve the system of the blood of freedom. All right, what we just did is we ran through public choice theory, and then we approached rational choice theory, and then we topped it off with an understanding of demosclerosis. Now, let's think about the writer, the political scientist, Schattschneider. In 1960, he wrote this book called The Semi-Sovereign People. So the question is, what does all of this matter, right? Who cares about this stuff? Well, the semi-sovereign people, right? Schattschneider's work, we're going to call this on the test. The Schattschneider argument is holding that there's a particular group of people that benefit from interest group activity more so than the American people at large. That is the underlining supposition. We're going to call it the predicate supposition of both public choice theory, rational choice theory, and the criticism implicit in demosclerosis. Schatzsnyder says, rather than being broadly representative of the American people, pluralism at its most effective involves only a small segment of the country that happens to be the most privileged section of the country. Here's the Schatzsnyder quote that you're likely to see on the next test. Schatzsnyder says the flaw in the pluralist heaven is that the heavenly chorus sings with a strong upper class accent, that wealthy people are able to use their money and their resources to dominate the interest group system in such a way that regular Americans, working class people, cannot. So the most influential interest groups are composed of Americans from the most privileged sectors of the social structure. The vast majority of influential interest groups, these represent various factions of the corporate community. And we have to be clear that most competitive interest groups do not, capital not, represent poor or working class people. So what Schatzsnyder gives us is that a political system that is responsive to pluralism is in fact a system that represents the interests of the educational rather, and the economic elite. All right, I have no idea how much time that was, but we're going to end this recording right now, and I'll see you again soon.